Hi kids, and welcome to Disney Animation Reviews. I'm Josiah Milky. We're almost done with the package films era. Only 2 more movies left in this era. World War II was over by the mid-40s, but it would still be a few years before Walt Disney started getting back into full-bodied animated films. The last 2 films of the 40s were package films. And the first one, the one we're talking about today, is Walt Disney's 10th animated classic, Melody Time. Guys, we're finally in the double digits in this series. Melody Time actually just celebrated its 70th anniversary about 2 weeks ago, which means it was first released near the end of May of 1948. Similar to Fantasia, it combines several unrelated animated segments with different music. They're all packaged together with no cohesive storyline to tie them together. But when Melody Time was first released, it got generally unfavorable reviews and wasn't really well liked by people. It's gotten better reviews nowadays. Melody Time has 7 segments, starting with an opening with a song called Melody Time, sung by an animated Buddy Clark and a trio of backup singing girls. And then we actually go into the 7 segments. The first segment is Once Upon a Winter Time, sung by Frances Langford. I've seen this one on a home video release or 2 from Disney. It's a cute segment about a guy and his girlfriend going ice skating in the middle of winter, and they have a wonderful time until the ice breaks and they have to save each other. Rest assured it all ends happy for them. The next segment is Bumble Boogie, a updated jazz rendition of Flight of the Bumblebee that was actually intended for Fantasia, but then they put it in this film. It's performed by Freddie Martin and his orchestra, and it's about a bumblebee trying to escape a frenzy of musical instruments. Sounds cute. The third segment is the Johnny Appleseed story, sung and narrated by Dennis Day, who voices all of the characters, talking about how Johnny Appleseed came to be Johnny Appleseed, the famous apple grower. The Andrews Sisters, who sang and narrated the Johnny Fedora and Alice Bluebonnet segment of Make Mine Music, come back to sing and narrate the next story, Little Toot, about a little tugboat who wants to be like his dad, but he's always getting into trouble. But he actually ends up being the one to save the day when the bigger boats are caught in a storm. It's kind of like the plane segment from Saludos Amigos, but with boats. Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians recite the poem Trees, which really isn't much to look at. It's just them reciting the poem. And we actually get to see some trees growing. So this is probably the weakest segment of the bunch. The next segment is Blame It on the Samba, featuring Donald Duck and Jose Carioca from Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. Ethel Smith plays the organ on this piece, and the song is sung by the Dinning Sisters, as the Araquan bird from Three Caballeros teaches Donald and Joe how to samba, which lifts them up when they're feeling down. This is the last animated Disney feature film that Donald and Joe Carioca show up for in 40 years until they have their cameo in Roger Rabbit. It's always a treat to see Donald, so this segment sounds like a good one. And then the last segment, and probably the most popular of the bunch, is Pecos Bill, the story of a boy who was raised by coyotes, similar to how Mowgli is raised by wolves later on in the Jungle Book, and how he became the famous cowboy Pecos Bill, catching red-painted Indians, saving his cattle from a herd of rustlers, and eventually meeting up with the cowgirl Slewfoot Sue, and falling in love with her and wanting to marry her. But his horse doesn't like it, so he tries to separate the 2 of them. The story is told via live-action portions and animation, with the live-action featuring our narrators, Roy Rogers and the Sons of the Pioneers, telling the story to child actors Bobby Driscoll and Luana Patton from Song of the South. Luana Patton also co-starred with Edgar Bergen in the live-action parts of the Mickey and the Beanstalk segment of Fun and Fancy Free. Bobby Driscoll went on to voice the child character in Disney's all-animated feature film, Peter Pan. So those are the segments of Melody Time. Some of them are fun. It's always a treat to see Donald, so Blame It on the Samba will definitely be a highlight. I've seen the Once Upon a Wintertime segment when I was a kid, and I thought that was cute. Johnny Appleseed will probably be interesting, and Pecos Bill, like I said, is probably the most popular segment of the video. Otherwise, there's quite a few segments. The trees, the Bumble Boogie one, I guess, is okay, but the trees, I think trees is probably the weakest. And Little Toot looks cute, even if it is a carbon copy of the plane segment from Saludos Amigos with boats. But great singing and vocals, nice lap of talent, Roy Rogers and the Andrews sisters and whatnot. So while it's probably not the worst animated Disney film ever, it's definitely one that if you want to watch it, it's okay to only watch just once, and then you don't have to watch it again. Melody Time was first released on VHS 50 years after its initial theatrical release, so it was first released on home video in 1998, and then was released on video and DVD for the first time as part of the Walt Disney Gold Classic Collection in the summer of 2000. And the only bonus features we get on the Gold Classic Collection DVD release are 3 animated shorts. The Casey at the Bat segment from Make Mine Music, Donald Applecore, where Donald tries to keep his apples safe from Chip and Dale, and Lambert the Sheepish Lion, about a baby lion who is raised by a mother sheep, but he gets teased by the other lambs until one day he has to save them from a hungry wolf. The wolf actually looks like the wolf from the Peter and the Wolf segment of Make Mine Music, which is interesting because both Peter and the Wolf and Lambert the Sheepish Lion are narrated by Disney voice actor Sterling Holloway. Also, we get a cameo in the short by Mr. Stork, Holloway's character that he voiced in Dumbo. So the short has some nice callbacks to Holloway's earlier Disney roles. So that's my take on Melody Time. It's definitely not as good as Fantasia, even though I personally didn't really care for Fantasia anyway. Like I said, some of the segments are great. Pecos Bill's probably the best. But otherwise, if you don't see this movie, you're not missing out on much. But if you do see it, it's okay to see it just once, and then you can move on to something else. So that's my take on Melody Time. Only one more package film to go before we move back to full-bodied animated Disney films starting in the 50s with Cinderella. Until then, remember, when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. See you soon!